Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar session. The title of the webinar today is COVID-19 Beyond the Pandemic Issue, Pedagogical Approaches in Online Distance Learning. We are happy that we have some honorable speakers. Also, of course, Ibu Lili, as the Education Attaché of the Republic of Indonesia in Manila, and also some guest speakers. We have here, let's see, we have Dr. Haji Maskuri, MED. He is Head of Institution Development of Muhammadiyah Boarding School, Indonesia. We also have Dr. Edison Fermin, Vice President for Academic Affairs, National Teachers College in the Philippines. He's going to be here soon. And we also have Dr. Iksanuddin. He's Vice Chairman of Muhammadiyah Provincial Board, Muhammadiyah, West Kalimantan, Muhammadiyah. And he is also a lecturer at Tanjung Pura University in West Kalimantan. And we have fourth guest speaker, Miss Jenny V.R. Antonio. She is Master Teacher 1 at Navotas Elementary School, the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, inevitably, COVID-19, of course, has tremendous impact on all aspects of life, including education sector. And this webinar will explore the perceived transition from conventional to digital classroom as a consequence of learning from home. Prominent educators, as I mentioned before, from Indonesia and the Philippines will share best practices of pedagogical approaches in online distance learning to ensure that meaningful and effective teaching and learning process are still taking place during this transition. That's a little bit of introduction from me. And of course, we would like to start this by having national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and the Philippines national anthem, of course. Please.
Indonesia tanah lahirku, tanah tentang darah. Di sana rahayu berdiri, jadi pandu hidup. Indonesia kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku. Marilah
Rabbi zidni ilman warzuqni fahma. Artinya, ya Allah, tambahkanlah aku ilmu dan berikanlah aku rizki akan kepahaman.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Thank you, everyone. Now I would like to welcome the Honorable Education and Culture Attaché of the Republic of Indonesia in Manila, the Philippines, Ibu Dr. Nurlaili MED, to give opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Pak Alfa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Selamat pagi, Magandang Umaga. My Honorable Dr. Alfa Amirahman, Sekretaris Dikdasmen Muhammadiyah, right now is moderator. My Honorable Dr. Haji Maskuri, Master Education, Head of Institution of Department Muhammadiyah Boarding School. My Honorable Dr. Haji Isanuddin, MA from Chairman Muhammadiyah Provinsi Kalimantan Barat. My Honorable Janice V. Antonio, Master Teacher, Novotas Elementary School, Philippines. And all of the participants today is more than 60. Thank you very much to join this webinar international collaboration between Attaché Education Indonesian Embassy with Dikdasmen Muhammadiyah. And this is the third of webinar international, and I hope this webinar international is a lot of experience, not only from Indonesia but together with from Philippines. The other speaker is Edison Fermin, PhD, Vice President for Academic Affairs, National Teacher College. Thank you very much all of the panelists and all of the participants. Dengan mengucapkan bismillah, saya buka webinar internasional tanggal 29 Oktober 2020. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Terima kasih, Pak Alfa.
Thank you, Bu Lily, for the warm opening remarks. Now I would like to welcome again Bu Lily, to give a keynote speech with regard to our topic today. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pak Alfa. Thank you, all of the panelists and participants. This is my keynote speaker about the important role of online distance learning. The importance of having motivation to learn. some indicator motivation to learn. For example, there is a desire to succeed. There is an encouragement and need in learning. There are hopes and aspiration for the future. There is an appreciation in learning. There are activities that are interesting in learning, and there is a conducive learning environment. This indicator is used as a measure. Here are the advantages of the online learning system. First, study time is shorter. Be easily accessing learning material or following face-to-face videos. Students have a faster time to study, especially studying at home. So they don't have to spend a lot of time going to campus or school as usual. In addition, students do not need any more time to wait for the teacher, who sometimes drag so that it's require a lot of wasted time. Second, education is more advanced. With a learning system like this, at least education is more advanced. Although slightly, one of the advanced education has been able to take advantage of existing technology in the way of learning education more varied with online learning. Third, students can develop themselves. Learning online that doesn't take a lot of time can allow students to develop themselves in other things, such as reading, writing, or drawing. That way, students do not just study or seek knowledge, but can develop their talent and potential. Here are the drawbacks of the online learning system. First is chore pile up. Even though studying at home, students cannot live in peace because they have to face the task given by the teacher. Time at home is spent doing piling up chores. Teachers give assignments so that students still get grades and learning material. Consume a lot of internet data or quota. Students who usually buy internet packages once a month can now buy internet packages 2 to 3 times a month. In addition, those who use Wi-Fi also have an effect because the predetermined internet limit experience excessive usage plus sometimes Wi-Fi has problem, whether from the company or other thing. Number 3, the learning material is difficult to obtain. Online learning systems save more time, but online learning is not necessarily more effective in accepting learning material for students. Many complain that how to study online only provides filling up tasks, which add to the stress to students while at home. In addition, conducive condition in the house may make someone receive lesson or not. If it is conducive, maybe it will be easier to accept learning. But if the house is not conducive, the student will have difficulty receiving lesson. Fourth, difficult debate. If at school or on campus there is something that is difficult to understand or there is a difference of opinion, it may be easier to discuss it. But in terms of learning online, it will be difficult. Why? Because in this learning method, if one person speaks, there is a possibility that the other speaks and the teacher is difficult to control the situation when many are talking. In other words, the voices in the meeting video overlap. In addition, students with poor network connection or slightly damaged cell phone will have difficulty hearing the overlapping audio. Thank you. Terima kasih. Maraming selamat. Selamat berwebinar. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bu Lili, for the opening speech. Now we are going to go to our session of webinar. We are going to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Haji Maskuri, MED. Let me just overview his educational and working background. Yeah. Mr. Maskuri has his degree from the State Islamic University of Syarif Hidayatullah, Jakarta, and then master's degree from George Mason University, Fairfax, Virginia, the United States of America. And his PhD is from the State University of Jakarta. He is Vice Secretary for Primary and Secondary Education, previously in 2005 to 2010. And now he is head for Pesantren or Muhammadiyah Boarding School Development, Central Board of Muhammadiyah, 2015 until 2022. So, Pak Maskuri, the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi, morning, peace be upon you all. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Ibu Lili, the Education and Culture Attaché of MBS of Indonesia in Manila, Pak Alfa, the moderator of this webinar, Dr. Iksan, and also Miss Jenny, one of the speaker in this webinar. First of all, I would like to thank to all of you that this morning I have opportunity to share my experience managing the Muhammadiyah boarding school all over Indonesia. Maybe what I would like to present in this webinar is experience of Muhammadiyah boarding school during the COVID-19 pandemic, seen at the beginning of March until now. My presentation will cover overview of MBS, Muhammadiyah Boarding School, and second, impact of COVID-19 in general, and third, impact of COVID-19 on education and Muhammadiyah Boarding School, and fourth, problem of online learning, especially in Muhammadiyah Boarding School, and the fifth, policy of organization, and the sixth, pedagogical approach in online learning, and last is closing. First, what is MBS? MBS is Muhammadiyah Boarding School, an Islamic education which is managed by Muhammadiyah organization. The teaching learning process is taking place in the classroom since 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. and the rest of time the santris or students stay and study in the dormitory. So we can call that the learning process in Muhammadiyah boarding school especially, and also in Islamic boarding school all over Indonesia, the teaching learning process is going on almost 24 hours, except for rest. This is one example of pesantren or Mu'alimin Muhammadiyah boarding school in Yogyakarta. This MBS is built by founder of Muhammadiyah, Haji Ahmad Dahlan, in 1918. So it is quite old, now is 102 years old. And this MBS is as place for cadre, for building cadre of Muhammadiyah all over Indonesia. And all the students are male, not female, because we have Mu'allimat, Mu'allimat Muhammadiyah boarding school. This is also only for female santri or students. This is the activity in the Muhammadiyah boarding schools. For example, in the top, on the left side, the student is gathering in the mosque and learning Holy Quran, all together with the groups, usually after praying, sunset praying. So in the picture, in the bottom is activity of our santri, our students, especially IPM, Ikatan Belajar Muhammadiyah Student Organization. This is internal organization in the pesantren or MBS. MBS Muhammadiyah boarding school system affiliate to the Ministry of Religious Fair Education System. So the curriculum we adopted from the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Religious Affairs, but modified by our characteristic of Muhammadiyah curriculum. We call it Ismu Baris, Al-Islam, Kemuhammadiyahan, Bahasa Arab, Bahasa Inggris. Islamic teaching, Arabic language, and Muhammadiyah, and also English, because English is international language. So Muhammadiyah, as all school, madrasah, and also MBS should cover English in the curriculum. This is the activity of santri or students as extracurricular activity, usually after school, in the after 2 o'clock, after 2 o'clock p.m. until 6. There is some play football and also self-defense and also Hizbul Waton. I would like to share you that Islamic boarding school or Muhammadiyah boarding school have requirements should be fulfilled. There are 5 components should be fulfilled by MBS, by Islamic boarding school all over Indonesia, because it is regulation from the government. First of all, there should be kiai. We call it a teacher of Islam as a leader. In Muhammadiyah, we call it mudir or directors. And secondly, should be any santri or students. And the third, there should be any teaching learning process, especially for Dirasa Islamiyah, or we call it usually Kitab Kuning, yellow books. This is the book that written in Arabic language as sources of Islamic teaching. And the fourth, there should be mosque, because mosque is a center of activity for discussing, for learning Quran, Hadith, and so on. And the last one, there should be dormitory, because santri or students live or stay all day long, almost 24 hours. So they should be stay in their dormitory. This is MBS Muhammadiyah Boarding School. If we call in general Islamic boarding school, we call it pesantren. Talking about the COVID-19, as Pak Alfa mentioned about that COVID-19 has tremendous impact on all life. So at least I would like to say to you that the impact of COVID-19 on social life, political, economy, education, and culture. So in this opportunity, I would like to the impact of COVID-19 on education. Impact of COVID-19 on education sector from the preschool and also primary and secondary education, school, madrasah, or boarding school. And the last is in higher education. Impact of COVID-19, especially for Muhammadiyah boarding school. This note is I got from the discussion among the director of Muhammadiyah boarding school all over Indonesia. I heard what is the problem of COVID-19 towards our Muhammadiyah boarding school. We got data like this, impact on learning process, and secondly, impact on economy of Muhammadiyah boarding school, and thirdly, additional burden for parents. And fourth, safely for student, teacher, director, and MBS community. And the last one is new challenges for MBS. On the till, I would like to explain impact on learning. At the end of March 2020, Pesantren, or we call it Pesantren Muhammadiyah or Muhammadiyah boarding school, decided to send back santris or students to their parents and the teaching learning through distance learning or online. Second, the majority of Pesantren Muhammadiyah or Muhammadiyah boarding school are undergoing online teaching learning process using varieties of applications such as WhatsApp, Zoom, Google Classroom, and others, or still Indonesia. And third, most of students or most of Ustadz, or we call teachers, haven't been accustomed to implementing online teaching well because they have a limited knowledge and skill on e-learning, so they haven't provided enjoyable distance learning, learning process. And fourth, santri or students have been staying at home quite long, so they feel bored since they usually gather with their friends and at school and also at dormitory as well. So during almost 80 months, they stay at home. This situation is very, very bored for them. And five, online teaching process only focus on cognitive domain and lack of affective and psychomotoric domains. This is the problem that almost all the director of pesantren informed to us. And impact on MBS economy, because santri or students don't pay fully for school fee since they stay at home with their parents. So the income from the parents is decreased because santris stay or live with their parents, do not pay for monthly school fee, including for for food during every month. And secondly, the MBS income will be a problem if the COVID-19 lasts longer. And now we cannot predict, unpredictable when the COVID-19 will be last, because the MBS have to pay for Ustadz salary. The Ustadz or the teacher should be paid for every month. So it is a problem for the MBS. And third, Ustadz and Santri have to spend money for providing internet. This is the impact of economy to the MBS. And next, additional burden for parents. Mostly, parents do not have enough knowledge and capability to take over as a teacher to guide and advocate their children. Because usually parents trust to the Muhammadiyah boarding school to educate them, to advise them, and a parent only monitor from long distance. But during the COVID-19, parents should accompany the children to study, even how to get cognitive domain, affective, and psychomotoric. So it is burden for almost for the parents, because they do not have any knowledge, any capability, or some have knowledge or capability, but they are very busy. And second, psychologically, such condition above make them boring, and also their parents. This is, I think, the problem that feel by almost all the santri or parents. But the COVID-19, it is new challenges for MBS. COVID-19 forces the MBS to provide variety of strategies online distance learning. So there is no way, there is no alternative that the teaching learning process during the COVID-19 should be going on through the online learning. And it has become the challenges for MBS. Second, based on the experience, the existence of COVID-19 since the beginning of this year make people more progressive, mastering information, communication, and technology, or ICT, than before. So almost every day, we getting in touch with the Zoom, and also school, madrasah, and pesantren forced to prepare the teaching learning process in online distance learning. Problem online learnings. Many ustad or teachers consider that online distance learning cannot be optimum, since most of parents and santri or students have problems such as: one, they do not have Android cellular phone. As you know, that the santri or student usually not coming from the urban society, but from the rural area, and some santris very far, still in the villages all over Indonesia. And second, they do not have any access to internet. This is also a very difficult situation for them. And third, they have limited access to internet. There is access to internet, but they should provide money for buying the data internet, and this is become problem. So our organization, the board of Muhammadiyah, published the policy for that the school, madrasah, and also MBS, even in the higher education, should undergo the, what is it, online learning. What is the reason? We can take one ayah in Holy Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Man qatala nafsan bighairi nafsin aw fasadin fil ardi faka'annama qatalan nasa jami'a wa man ahyaha faka'annama ahyahan nasa jami'a. Whoever kill a person, it would be as if he killed all of our humanity, and whoever save alive, it will be as if they save all humanity. Holy Quran's Al-Ma'idah 32. The way of thinking from this Holy Quran, the aim of Islamic law or Sharia is protection. Protection in what? Religions, one religion, and second, mind, and third, soul, and fourth, material, and fifth, heredity. But based on the magistrates, in the situation of COVID-19, we have to priority to the hifdun nas, to the safety of our body. So it is a compulsory for our education, Muhammadiyah education, from kindergarten, elementary, primary, and also higher learning, should applying the online learning, because it is very dangerous for our, this is the policy of teaching learning process during COVID-19 from the Central Board of Muhammadiyah. So we have Majelis Dikdasmen, we have LP2, and also we have Muhammadiyah COVID-19 Command Center. All this published letter informing to all our education institution, especially to Muhammadiyah boarding school, to have online learning, not to, what is it, to call the santri coming to the pesantren or to Muhammadiyah boarding school, because this is very dangerous. How to implement the distance online learning? This is some guidance for Muhammadiyah boarding school. We have used or sing about the three center of educations. Three center education are actors in the education ecosystem which are involved in supporting the success of strengthening education in school or Muhammadiyah boarding school, namely santri or student to develop their potencies. Even they stay at home, but there should be any communication between MBS and santri or student and also their parents. So the process of learning is undergoing through distance learning. Second, engaging santri or student to have self-learning and guide by Ustadz or teacher. Because the distance between Muhammadiyah boarding school and the santri or parents are quite far, so santri or student should have a mentality how to self-learning. So, of course, a guide by Ustadz or by a teacher. Third, building cooperation with parents to provide online distance learning. The online distance learning will be go on well if there is cooperation, there is coordination, there is communication between Muhammadiyah boarding school, between Ustadz, Muhammadiyah boarding school, with the parents. Because parents responsible for their children education during COVID-19 still there. We have a principle of online distance learning for Ustadz. So first priority is healthy, safety, and security in the learning process. Because during the COVID-19, the situation is not conducive. So priority first is healthy, safety of the student, safety of the parent. Second, adapting student characteristic to the available infrastructure and santries or student economical background. The process of online distance learning should consider the characteristic of infrastructure of the student, because they spread out all over Indonesia. They have very different situation between one santri or one student to the another student, and also background of economical background of their parents or the student. Because distance learning need money for providing quota or internet. So it is also should be considered by Muhammadiyah boarding school. Third, implementing creative, communicative, and collaborative learning. So in the process of online distance learning, the creativity should be there. So the teaching learning process will be very interesting, not make them boring. And also communication should be going on every time, because it is quite far between MBS and also student and parents. So there should be any communicative that always happen between MBS, student, and also the parents. This is actors of online distance learning. I have just mentioned that the three center of education, parents, school, in this case MBS, in this case teacher or Ustadz, and also santri. And these three aspects, parent, Ustadz or teacher, and santri should be work together. For example, parents should building communication with Ustadz, teacher, to provide lesson plan will be delivered. Second, parent providing learning resources and facilities needed for their children. Because parent monitor, parent accompany the santri in their home. So parents should be consider providing resources in order the teaching learning process is going on. So helping and accompanying their children in learning. So the key important thing is should be any cooperation between santri or student and also parents. And fourth, monitoring for the children learning activities. Because if santri or student live all the night at home, it is also not good situation. Some students feel bored, so sometimes a student try to go out of home. So it should be obligation for the parent to control. So the online distance learning is going on as we plan. For Ustadz or teacher, identifying santri or student characteristic on condition santri and their parents. So it is important that identifying santri characteristics, because all of santri have different characteristics, even in intellectual, economical, and also in situation. Second, identifying characteristic of subject matter will be delivered. This is also very important because during online distance learning is very different with the teaching learning process in the normal situation. So identifying material to be taught, to be delivered to the santri is very important. And then socializing the sign of learning of online distance learning to the santri, student, and parent. So again, that the important thing is communication, coordination between Ustadz, between teacher, student, and also parents. And for informing feedback of learning process, santri, student. I'm sure that online learning, distance learning, santri definitely have problems. So if they have problem, they should communicate with their parents and also with their teachers in order to be solve that problem. And the third, santri or student, preparing themselves for learning with the resources of learning needed. And second, communicating the problem of learning to their parent and Ustadz. Undergoing learning from home joyfully and happily. This is very important thing because COVID-19 taking very long time, and santri should learn from home is quite a long time. So santri or student should learn any material joyfully and happily. The content of learning from home, the curriculum should be adjusted based on COVID-19 condition, because as I said just now, that the material, subject material between normal condition and situation of COVID-19 is very different. So the core of competency and basic competency should be adjusted based on characteristic of intellectual question and emotional question of student or santris. Second, characteristic of area, because they live in spread out all over Indonesia, and also infrastructure and economical background of parent should be considered. Third, discussion among mudir, director of MBS, Ustadz, teacher, and also MBS supervisor. So what the material or curriculum will be delivered to the santri should be discussed by all. Then implementation of learning, even theory or practical. Standard of criteria of minimum mastery learning for assessment. It is all justice based on agreement among the mudir or director, Ustadz, teacher, and also MBS advisor. The design of learning, if the teaching learning process using online learning, we have to internet network, and also we have should be available media, WhatsApp, Google Classroom, Google Meeting, WebEx, and Zoom, and etc. If the media using non-online learning, we can use books, module, working sheet learning, and also TV and radio. As I explained before, that the problem of the teacher or of the Ustadz of Muhammadiyah boarding school is the capability how to have a learning process using e-learnings or using online learning. So in our side that we have to cooperation with the university to help the teacher or Ustad to improve the competency, how to improve online distance learning. So the institution of development of Muhammadiyah boarding school have collaborate with the University of Muhammadiyah. We train all Ustad, all teacher of Muhammadiyah boarding school. We have total number of our Muhammadiyah boarding school, 356 all over Indonesia. What is the subject matter for training online learning? First, introducing application of online learning, and second, producing digital learning material, and third, delivering online learning. I think these three aspects is very important. If the Ustad or teacher have already knowledge and skill about these three aspects, is the online learning, distance learning will be going on well. This is the campus or the university that collaboration with our institution to improve the competency of our Ustad. This is Muhammadiyah University of Purwokerto in Central Java Province, and Muhammadiyah University of Makassar in South Sulawesi, and Muhammadiyah University of Malang is Java Province, and Muhammadiyah University of Yogyakarta in Special Province of Yogyakarta. Terima kasih, thank you, syukran. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak Maskuri, for the enlightening presentation we have just heard from him. The challenges of online distance learning, particularly for boarding schools, yeah, because in boarding school, the characteristics, I think it's different from regular school. This is the boarding school where students have to stay at the boarding school, but because of the pandemic, then they have to stay at home. So this is really a challenge. And then we have just heard from Pak Maskuri about the role of teachers, the role of society, the roles of parents, you know, which are very important to work together to make sure that teaching and learning activities are done accordingly. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you very much to Pak Maskuri. The second speaker should be Dr. Edison Vermin. Is he already here, Bu Lili?
Yes,
Oh,
already here.
Dr. Edison Vermin is already here with us. I would like to read a little bit about his profile. Edison Angeles Vermin, PhD, is the Vice President for Academic Affairs of the National Teachers College, the Philippines. He formerly served Miriam College in various capacities such as Director for Innovation Development, Director for Basic Education, and High School Principals. He holds a bachelor's degree in secondary education, major in English, minor in Film Magna Cum Laude. a master's degree in teaching English as a second language, and a doctoral degree in Filipino language planning and policy, all from the University of the Philippines in Diliman. And he also received the UP Gawat Transler bilang pinakamahusay na di graduadong mag-aral sektor. I'm sorry for my pronunciation, in 2000. And he was also chosen as the youngest recipient of the Professional Achievement Award of the University of the Philippines College of Education Alumni Association for his scholarly work on evidence-based teaching practices. Dr. Aizan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that everyone is safe, healthy, and sound at this time. I'd like to thank my esteemed colleague and friend, Ibu Lily, for inviting me over. And I hope that my sharing this morning will enable us to appreciate further that online distance learning is something that we could all succeed in. So first, I'd like to let you know that working with Indonesian principals, administrators, and teachers has always been very close to my expertise. And in fact, in 2012, the Philippines and Indonesia signed a bilateral agreement for the training of principals in terms of their leadership competencies. I was in Yogyakarta in 2012 and continued on our sharing of practices in school leadership. And one of those schools was MUHAMMADIYAH 1 school in Yogyakarta. I don't know if there's anyone who's from the same school. I just want to send my greetings that I am one with all the MUHAMMADIYAH schools in making sure that education continues at this time. So given that I only have 30 minutes or so to share with you my thoughts on online distance learning, I would like to entitle my presentation this morning as Experience over Content, focusing on student-centeredness in online distance learning. I am happy that the speaker before me made mention that we all have to take care of our students, especially at this time. However, it is always a challenge to actually see ourselves working towards a system like this because we have not yet done it at scale before. So what I'm gonna do, and I promise this to be a fun exercise for us so that you can see the value of doing student-centered online distance learning. So if you have your devices with you, there are two applications that I will introduce to you. The first one is Jamboard and the other one is Slido. So Slido can be easily accessed. There is an event code that is shown on the screen right now. That's hashtag 16953. Please go to www.slido.com or you could scan using your QR code on the screen. Meantime, go to the chat room and I will paste the link for our Jamboard. Make sure that you access these two because there are two simple activities that I will ask you to use. So if you go to the chat room now, I pasted the Jamboard link and then I will also write down the Slido link, which is an event code. And the event code is a number that is hashtag, I will repeat, 16953. So can you please go to the chat room and type OK if you were able to open the two applications. Again, the two applications that I will demonstrate are Jamboard and Slido.com. So let me give you a minute to access those. I'd like to see in the chat room who were able to access. My colleague from DepEd, Jenny, was able to access. Let us ask our other Indonesian friends if they were able to access. So I promise that if you're able to access this, I can show you how online distance learning can really be facilitated easily. Again, if you were able to access, please write down on the chat room okay, so that I will know if you are able to participate or not. All right, I am seeing some people who have already accessed. That's very good. Just continue. I saw the name of Febimur Biduri, Maria Agustin Mahardika, at Dikbud, admin at Dikbud, I don't know how to pronounce that properly. Gina Dini Setyawati was able to access, very good. So for the rest of you, please continue accessing the links. Again, just click on the link that I have placed on the chat room for Jamboard. And if you can actually go to www.slido.com, please use the event code that I have shown on the screen. And I think we are now ready to begin our sharing. I came from the National Teachers College. This is one of the Philippines' finest institution for preparing teachers and school administrators. Over 90 years, we have been trying to innovate on the way we should prepare our teachers. But when the pandemic came, it only took us 9 days to transition to online and distance learning. What's the secret to success? Actually, I invite you to participate in our online certificate program from November 23 to 28, 2020. The details are on your screen so that we could tell you more about how we prepare learning experience designs for new student groups in the post-pandemic world. But today, I will give you a taste of what we do at National Teachers College in order to address the challenges of online distance learning. The most challenging part of online distance learning is when teachers focus on too much content. My colleagues at the Department of Education understand that prior to COVID-19, it was already difficult to teach content to students. What more if you do it remotely or via distance learning? And so our goal is to prevent that frustration from happening. And there are 3 practical tips that I will share with you and which are based on what we have successfully done so far. They are shown on the screen and I will discuss each of them in an interactive format. So let's begin with the first lesson. We learned that in online distance learning, teachers must structure the inquiry process around realistic experiences. And when we talk of realistic experiences, we are talking about experiences that can be done at home because that's where most of the students are, or all students are based at the moment. So most of the learning experiences that you should provide must be based on the context of the home. And this is an example that I will show you. Suppose you have a lesson on distinguishing which one is a fruit and which one is a vegetable. So in a normal situation, if I were in my class, I will actually call upon you to go to your kitchen and look for any fruit or vegetable that you will find. And then I will ask the students one at a time to describe to me what makes their food a fruit or a vegetable. But that can be upgraded more interactively online. And that's what we're gonna show in our Jamboard. So can you please go to the Jamboard now? This is how it looks like. And I will show you how you can really make it interactive for your students. So there are now 20 people on the Jamboard. I will show you how this can be an interactive mechanism for online distance learning. If you look at the left side of your screen, there are 8 or 9 icons. Click on the icon that says sticky note. The sticky note looks like this. It can be any color or any color that you can use. And what I ask you to do is to use a sticky note to write down your description of a fruit compared to a vegetable. So give me one description of a fruit and another description of a vegetable so that we can see the difference, just like what I am doing right now. So please go to your Jamboard now and see if you can actually write down your own description. So take note, all of you have already been given access to the link, and you can now edit your own responses. I have just updated it. So go ahead and add an answer. I will give you 1 or 2 minutes. Please get your own sticky note and write down your answer on the screen.
Where do I get the sticky note, sir?
Look at the left panel, the left side of your screen. If you can see my screen right now, there is a pen, an eraser, a selector, and then a sticky note icon. Can you see it?
Kindly refresh the web.
So no one has given an answer yet, but you are all authorized to give a sticky note now. You might be clicking on your monitor, but not on your actual window. So please go to the tab where your Jamboard is actually found.
I have to log in first, yeah.
Yes, I have given the link on the chat room earlier. That's why I placed it earlier.
Yeah. I think I am already on the site, but I cannot see the panel. I have to put some code first, yeah.
Okay, but you're already able to access it.
Yeah.
I have already changed the interaction setting. So Jenny, it's no longer at view, it's already at edit. Can you try, Jenny, to write something? So
We
again,
have to refresh the page first, and then we can edit it.
it's already refreshed.
Yeah,
Thrive.
no, for the participant I meant, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So the
Oh,
participant,
yes.
you
Yeah,
may
okay.
want to refresh your pages first. I can now see 2 people who are writing something. So please go ahead. So there's someone who annotated. Please don't annotate, just use a sticky note. The sticky note is the 4th icon from the left. Give it a try. Thank you for erasing, whoever is erasing. So look for other words. Yes, so I saw the word delicious. You could drag that and place it anywhere on the screen. Go ahead. You're doing good. I can see some people working. Mustajib, you don't have to write your greeting there. You could erase that. I am looking for an answer on the difference between the fruit and the vegetable. What are the characteristics of that? Okay, 2 more minutes. Excellent. There are now more people interacting. All right. So if you are seeing how the students are interacting here, even if you are quiet at home, you can still see the interaction in an online and distance learning format. But that's not all. Actually, you can add more Jamboards here and group small students so that they can organize their ideas further. So on your spare time, I would like you to navigate the Jamboard because this is a very good tool to actually engage students in interaction. And eventually, the teacher can ask for 1 or 2 responses so that the discussion becomes alive as if you are in the classroom. So I'm glad that most of you are now working on this and are able to see how this is going to be useful for your classrooms. So I'm going to stop for a while just so I can continue with my discussion. So earlier, I was telling you that if you are able to make use of realistic experiences that connect to the concepts in your subjects, it is going to be easy for students to understand content. In the interaction that I have shown you, that will prepare students to actually arrive at the definition that a fruit is the often sweet and fleshy part of a plant that surrounds the seeds. And I think most of you saw some of those descriptions. Meantime, all other edible plant parts are considered vegetables. See the kind of interaction that happens, and that makes content manageable for our students. That's the first lesson. Now, in the second lesson, I want you to understand that you must stimulate engagement through self-paced investigation. This means that teachers and administrators should prepare learning experiences that allow students to work on their own with minimal guidance. This is challenging, but it is worth trying. And to tell you how this is useful, even in the most difficult subjects, such as mathematics, I will give you an actual example. In upper secondary school, where we teach geometry, you can find a universal competency like this. At the end of the lesson, the learners will compare the volume and lateral surface areas of two different cylinders. Now take note, the outcome says compare, but it does not say calculate a formula. Most mathematics teachers in basic education, particularly in secondary school, will just teach the definitions and the formula right away. You cannot do this so much in online and distance learning. You cannot even ask them to read too many books or too many online resources because they cannot ask their teachers immediately. So what you can do is to simplify content first. Make it just the right amount of content. And the way to describe essential content is, it is as short as an inch, but as deep as a mile. That's why an inch long, but a mile deep, the expression goes. If I were the math teacher, and by the way, I have actually taught this lesson, there are only 3 important things that students have to know. Number 1, volume is the quantity of 3-dimensional space enclosed by a closed surface. Number 2, the lateral surface area of an object will be all the sides of the object, excluding the top and the base. So if it is a cylinder, remove the top and remove the bottom, and you will have the lateral area. And take note, why is this important to know? In real life, when you know volume and lateral surface area, you can make decisions on how to package things. That's its application. So you have here what we call a model essential content. Now let's use lesson 1 in lesson 2, which is create real-life learning experiences. And because the home is a laboratory, you will find at home actual cylinders, just like what you see on the screen. By the way, if you notice, the stouter ones or the shorter ones compared to the taller ones seem to be different in terms of volume. But you know, my colleagues, the volume of these 2 cylinders is the same. All of them contain 325 milliliters of liquid. But we don't know if the lateral area is the same, whether you have a taller can or a shorter can. Now, what I'm gonna ask you to do is to tell me an alternative way to compare and contrast in terms of volume and lateral surface area without using a formula. You already know volume. In the meantime, let's do area. So my question for interaction among students is, what is the best way to compare the lateral area of 2 cylinders without using a formula? To do this, I would like you to go to slido.com. So in slido.com, we will be able to show how we can use online distance learning to effectively engage our students in learning. So I have now activated the first poll. Can you please make a vote or a choice in terms of what you can do to calculate lateral surface area? So it's now shown on the screen, the question. Let's see how many of you will be able to get a good answer. So the question is, what is the best way to compare lateral area of two cylinders without using a formula? Please make a vote on your devices now. The answers or the choices are on the screen. Go ahead, I will give you about 3 minutes to study your answer. Now notice that in slido.com, you are given a real-time analysis of students' responses. There are now 2 people who said that the best way to do it is to use a piece of string. Let's give others the chance to give an answer. There are now 3 people who gave an answer. Let's wait for the others. Okay, some people changed their minds. Now look at how exciting this is for students. So as their classmates provide an answer, they are thinking whether their answer is the best answer or not. And afterwards, you can ask the students which one they believe really is the most, not correct, but the most plausible and practical answer. So let's wait for others, maybe a minute more to give their answers. Anyone else who would like to give an answer? Now take note, while we are looking at the screen, slido.com also has a question and answer panel, so that when a student is quiet or having internet difficulty, the student can still interact using the question and answer panel. So let's go back. Now there are 7 people giving a real answer, a real-time answer to the question. So while we are waiting for some people to show their other answers, now take note that all 3 ways to examine lateral area shown on the screen are all possibly correct. And they are meaningful ways by which you could teach a sense of measurement among students, even if they do not use a formula. Because take note, even in international exams, the formulas will be given for calculation. But what students are having difficulty with is envisioning, visualizing, or understanding the relationships. But if you teach them using this way of self-paced investigation, take note, the idea here is to allow the students to investigate on their own. They can discover for themselves what can be a good answer or an acceptable way of thinking. So let's stop there. At least you know how it already works. Let's go back to our presentation so that I could continue my illustration. So take note, in the internet, it is rather very easy to compute for values. In fact, there is what we call an omni calculator, which is useful in teaching mathematics online. But you see, here, you will just put in data and it will be calculated. That's not going to be as helpful and enjoyable to students. So the engagement is lower. But if you give them a challenge over the same thing as Slido, you can actually help them understand the real dimensions of their lessons. And this will increase their level of engagement. I am done with lessons 1 and 2. Let's move on to the last item I will share. It is also important that you strategize in terms of varying interaction patterns. You know, if I only have command of actually unmuting participants right now, I can call up on 1, 2, or 3 people anytime to answer my questions. That is an example of an interaction pattern. So in online distance learning, your students have to know that you want them to speak, and any moment you will call upon them. So here is an example. I will actually call at random someone, and I hope that they can answer immediately. Can I ask Jenny V. Antonio, one of our speakers? Good morning, teacher Jenny. Can you unmute your microphone?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, teacher Jenny. How are you today?
Fine. And enjoying your discussion.
Okay. Can you look at the other panelists and ask something what he or she is doing today? Go ahead.
Wait. Hi, Sir Alpha. How are you?
Mr. Alpha Amirachman, good morning. How are you? Would you like to unmute your microphone, please? Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Okay, so there you go. This is an example of an unrehearsed interaction pattern. Your students have to know that anytime they can be called, just like what you have in the regular classroom. Now, interaction patterns are important because they will eventually help your students get in touch with each of the members of your class in an interactive way. So let us now demonstrate how that else can be done. So calling out on students and interacting with one another is one way, but you can use apps in between the interaction patterns to make it more enjoyable. Now let's go back to slido.com and I will show you how else that can be done. So I will activate a new poll, and this is the poll that you will have to answer. What 3 things are you most proud of as a citizen of Indonesia? Use a word or a short phrase. Can you write something on your device to tell me how proud you are as a citizen of Indonesia? Type in 3 things, either a word or a short phrase that you are most proud of, that you are very proud of as an Indonesian. I will give you 2 minutes to do that. Please write down your response. So take note, you are now looking at real-time answers of students. So one person gave her answer or his or her answer. Let us wait for other people to give their answer. Maybe 5 people will be okay. There you go. So Bineka Tunggal Ika was mentioned. Very good. Let me see other things that you are proud of as Indonesians. There are now 4 people giving their response. Now look, the screen suddenly changed because when a word or phrase becomes bigger, that means to say more people are saying the same thing. And once a word becomes big, you can now ask a student to give an insight or explain. Like, why do you think do most Indonesians people love their sense of unity? And now the students can freely think about it and talk about it. Yes, I agree. Indonesians are very polite people. And again, you could throw that back to the students and ask them why that is so. Let us wait for a few more answers and see what the others will write down. Please go ahead, the others. Give it a try. Now we have 3 common answers: tolerance, unity, and polite people. So this can go on. You could give enough time for the students to write that down. And if you are a language teacher, you can actually make use of this as a prompt to start writing lessons. So this is how you strategize for interaction patterns that make the students excited to provide their answers and their own insights. So this is what we mean by the third lesson that I have shared. So now let me now put together all the things that you have listened to since the time I started my sharing. So please take note. There are three things that can help you succeed in online distance learning. Number one, structure the inquiry process around realistic experiences. Number two, stimulate engagement through self-paced investigation. Number three, strategize in terms of varying interaction patterns. If you would like to learn more how to do these things, I invite you to participate in our certificate course on November 23, 28, 2020 via Zoom. The information on how you can participate in these courses, in this course rather, you can now see on your screen. But for now, this ends my discussion and I hope that everyone had fun. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Dr. Edison, for the enlightening presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just heard from him that interactions in online distance teaching and learning is very possible. And then he just demonstrated to us how it was conducted. Very interestingly, very interactively between him and also us. So I think this is a very good example, a very good demonstrations, that can be replicated by us, in various settings, I suppose. And I think Dr. Edison also invited us, to join his seminar, and he was showing us also in his last slide. So I would like to thank you again, Dr. Edison, for your presentations. It really widens our perspectives and knowledge on online teaching and learning. Thank you. So now, right now, I would like to welcome our next speaker, Dr. Ihsanuddin. He's a Vice Chairman of Muhammadiyah Provincial Board in West Kalimantan, and he's also a lecturer at Tanjung Pura University in West Kalimantan. He is the founding president of English Language Teaching Material Association and the chief editor of Journal of English Language Teaching Innovation and Materials. He studied ELT in Universitas Lampung, Linguistics in University of Indonesia, and Language Pedagogy in University Negeri Jakarta. He was a visiting scholar in Leeds Metropolitan University in 2009-2010 and in Kansas State University in 2017. He has taught as an invited and accepted presenter in Germany, UK, United States, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And he currently works, his current works are mostly in language teaching materials, language teaching methodology, and teacher development. In the last 6 years, he has served as the secretary of MILT program of University of Tanjung Pura. And in community education activities in Indonesia, he is one of the vice chair of Kalimantan Barat Province Board of Muhammadiyah Movement. So, Mr. Ihsanuddin, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everyone. My beloved colleagues in the Philippines. Yeah, I've been to the Philippines twice. I've been to Davao City, then Bukidnon, Iligan City, Marawi City. Yeah, very beautiful places and very polite and friendly people. Thank you very much. I would like to thank to the committee, Alpha, Dr. Alpha, and the attaché of Education and Culture of the Republic of Indonesia in Manila, Dr. Lily. Thank you very much. I've learned from Dr. Maskuri. Yeah, actually, in what is it? In the education of Muhammadiyah, Dr. Maskuri is one of my supervisors. Thank you very much, Maskuri. Then, thank you very much, Dr. Edison. Yeah, selamat. I just know some words of Filipino, salamat. Yeah. We have learned about the management of Muhammadiyah boarding schools during the pandemics. Yeah, we are already informed about how Muhammadiyah changed the mode of learning, from regular learning or conventional boarding school learning into long distance learnings, including the consequences. I think nothing is without consequence. Thank you also, selamat Dr. Edison, for your presentation. I learned a lot from how we manage the interaction, between the teacher and the students using Slido. I tried some, I answered, I responded, I think, and thank you, my response was also on the screen. I'm not going to talk as organized, as structured as Dr. Maskuri and Dr. Edison. I just want to share what we have already done and I have already observed from our colleagues here. The first is the situation of the pandemic in our place in West Kalimantan. The name of the province is Kalimantan Barat. Barat in the, actually in Indian language, Barat means India. But in our language, Barat means west. So Kalimantan Barat is usually our island in the international map is called Borneo. So it is West Borneo, but the official name of our province is Kalimantan Barat. For our colleagues in the Philippines, I think it's important for us to introduce that Indonesia is very broad. We have more than 16,000 islands, and I know that you're also broad. You're from Manila, and then in the center you have Luzon and then Mindanao. Yeah, I flew from Manila and then to Davao, then to Cagayan. Yeah, quick long flight. But we have three time zones. West Indonesia. Now in West Indonesia is about 10 o'clock, and the center of Indonesia is about 11 o'clock, and the east part of Indonesia is already 12 o'clock. The number of the people are also huge. Yeah, more than 250 million people. It is not easy to manage the education of that number of people and spread through so many islands. In the pandemic situation, I think of course, it is a kind of tragedy, but also benefit for certain area. What is important in this presentation, I think not presentation, a talk. Yeah. And my talk is that I'm going to present a bit about the institutions of Muhammadiyah schools, university, and academy in our province. And then I'm going to expose my colleagues' research about education in the pandemic in our place. And then I'm going to tell some stories, yeah, stories by a number of colleagues who adjusted the education into the pandemic situation. And in the last part, I'm going to reflect, yeah, the lessons that we can learn, yeah, from that situation. That's my introduction. I really need help to please help manage my slides, the committee. Yeah, this is the title of my talk, Pedagogy in the Pandemic. Yeah, ideas and what is it, from research and stories. That's myself. Okay, the next slide, please. Yeah, I already introduced this, but actually Muhammadiyah School and campuses in Kalimantan Barat will be in the first part of my presentations. Yes, this is what we have. We have over 50 kindergarten, I think almost 60 kindergarten that are organized by the women of Muhammadiyah. The women of Muhammadiyah, Muhammadiyah women that is organized in one autonomous organization. It is called Aisha. Yeah, 50, I think 50 something. Really sorry. Then we have 48 elementary and high school. Really sorry, I got problem with my screen. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And then one university, Universitas Muhammadiyah Pontianak, and one college of nursing and one polytechnic. Of course, we deal with problems of managing the education in the pandemics. We have, you know, in the university, we have around 5,000, not a big university, it's a growing university, about 5,000 students. And in the College of Nursing, it's about 800 students. And in the Polytechnics, we have about 500 students. In the pandemic, the teaching and learning process, of course, it is not so much different from the management of education by other schools and university. We have to adjust the mode of communication between teachers and students, the interactions. Thank you very much again. Selamat, Dr. Edison, yeah, to share. I think I'm going to introduce the Slido here to my colleagues. So far, we don't use that kind of interesting what is it, application. It's very interesting. And then the technology, of course, had been used before the pandemics, but in the pandemic situation, we use the technology more intensively. But the problem is in the preschool level. long distance learning, it is very, very difficult in the preschool level. That's why what we do now at the moment is managing the learning and teaching and learning process through home visit. A number of students together in certain house, about 3 to maximum 5 students, and then the teacher moved to another center, to the other centers. So if it is impossible to make centers in certain areas, so it is individual meeting with the students. Then the communication between teachers and students are more intensive. This is one of the benefits that every day, and I think more than once in a day, the teachers and students and then the parents communicate through usually WhatsApp. I know WhatsApp is not very popular in the Philippines. Yeah, I know, and Facebook. Yeah, I know in my colleagues in Philippines use Facebook very intensively. We use WhatsApp, and when I ask the parents and teachers, they feel convenience using WhatsApp. The communication between teachers and the parents are mostly about the assignments, yeah, and sometimes about the problems faced by the students in completing the assignments. And then this is what we are proud of, that we have given awards, yeah, awards and fee reductions to our students, even though we are a private enterprise, not really enterprise, the organization. This is a non-profit enterprise, but we can give reduction to our students, and then we give more awards to special for certain students that really need, yeah, that really need support. And then our quote-unquote project of giving reduction is a kind of education to our learners that we promote the character of giving. The character of giving is more intensively exposed to the learners. Not only do we give learners award and reductions, but in the pandemics, we invite the learners that live not far from the schools to do a social project, helping people, helping the poor that lose their job, yeah, that needs food. Yeah, the needies are we are getting closer to the needies, and the students and the teachers work collaboratively in the institution or small organization called MDMC, Muhammadiyah Disaster Management System. And the pandemics has made the relation among activists in Muhammadiyah work more collaboratively, more intensively to help people. Okay, next slide, please. This is the situation of the pandemic in our province. I think it is not very far different from the situation in the Philippines. Yeah, most students learn at home. In at least 6 months, students in rural areas have learned at school with strict health protocols. Yeah. In the rural areas, where people are confident that they don't have COVID-19 in their place, they are allowed to do classroom meeting, but in very limited number of students in one class. The capacity of the teaching and learning process in the pandemic cannot exceed 1/3 of the number of the class members. So, example, if the class members are 30, so the teaching and learning process in the rural areas are allowed to have a maximum 10 per meeting. And then in town, internet connections are excellent. I think in most towns in the globe. Computers and gadgets are available at home. The students are skillful in using IT facilities, and teachers and professors are relatively internet literate. It is in town. But we know that in town also we have also the needies that cannot buy the internet connection, like Dr. Maskuri already raised just now. Not only do the people in the rural areas that cannot afford the internet connection, but also some families in town, yeah, also need to be helped by their neighbors or by the schools. That's why we provide some kind of grants, yeah, or reductions. Then in the rural areas, another description of the rural areas, electric supply, yeah, the supplies of electricity are not 24 hours. Some are only 12 hours, some are only 6 hours, and in some areas there is no electricity at all. Yeah. Then internet connection are available in the center of the counties and the center of the districts, but in very limited speed. Yeah. Students have limited access to gadgets and computers because of their economic conditions, and teachers are not quite used to using the IT for teaching. This is what I observed in the late 6 months in Java, Sumatra, and my island. Okay, next slide, please. Next, yes. This is research, a study by my colleague, Dr. Aloysius Mering from Tanjung Pura University. Actually, the official name is Universitas Tanjung Pura. We translate into Tanjung Pura University. Using purposive sampling of 9 senior high school teachers and 4 junior high school institutions, 4 junior high school institutions, 6 elementary school institutions in 4 counties in Kalimantan Barat. The study involved 137 teachers. I'm sorry, when talking about research, usually it's getting boring. What we can find in the study is that in some schools, by some teachers, the learning are blended, yeah, through mobile phone, ebook, yeah, journals, video, while question and answers are by using WhatsApp. And then they also use some websites, mainly provided by the government, called Rumah Belajar. They also use Google for Education and Kelas Sendiri. Teachers also use Zoom meeting and then Google Meet, Google Classroom, and Ruang Guru. These are what we found, what the researcher found from the teacher's response. The challenges, yes, I think not very different from what I told earlier. The challenge is the limited internet access in certain areas, not in town. And then the teachers and parents have not got used to, not accustomed to using IT. So at the beginning, the teachers must work very hard or learn very hard to be able to operate the computer, especially the specific application. But for WhatsApp, WhatsApp is very popular. So when the teachers are not able to operate something, then the teacher or lecturers tend to use WhatsApp for the communication, for delivering the material, assignments, and question and answers. What the teachers try to overcome the problem is by creating fun learning. I'm not quite sure about how they make the teaching and learning process fun. I think by they use certain resources from the internet to make the situation more enjoyable. And then the teachers try to adjust to the students' needs, styles, and experience, not very strictly following the curriculum because of the, the situation and condition. And then continuous evaluation by teachers, by schools, and by the government. This is the majority. The result of the observation is found that the teaching and learning process can be implemented through various technology in fairly, not excellent, but also not bad. They could operate the teaching and learning process in the standard, in the minimum standard of implementation. The effectiveness with the teaching and learning process through the applications and through distant learning effective. This is in the level of middle, that is fairly effective. We can see the statistics. The statistics, there are two figures. The first one is about the implementation, and the second one is about the effectiveness. You see on the left part, that is the total, the summary of elementary, junior high, and senior high schools. And then the second is the elementary school, and the third junior high, and the fourth one is the senior high school, including the vocational school. We can see that the bars, the orange bars is the medium, the fairly effective in both the implementation and the effectiveness of the online learning. The study recommended that the government need to build more facilities in the rural areas for the communications, because the situation limit the possibility of the school to gather all the students into face-to-face meeting. That's the result of Mering's study recently in 2020. Okay, the next slide, please. The first story, the title is "Forget About the Curriculum." This is a story of a novice teacher, an English teacher that just worked in the rural area since 2019. So only 1 year ago. According to her, yeah, she is about 20 something. I think about 28 or 29. Now she is working in the rural area in Kalimantan, close to forest area. And then most of the students live in the palm plantation. The situation is very difficult. The picture is only the illustration, not really the picture of the situation, but more or less like that. When the teacher gives them assignment, and then the students need to communicate with the teachers, the teacher to her, the students must go to a certain place to get the internet connection. Sometimes to climb up, they need to climb up the tree or climb up a hill, yeah? Limited power supply, limited internet access, limited facility, unmotivated student. This is a special challenge, unmotivated student. The students in rural area, or especially those who are close to the plantations, just think about how to work and to get money from the company. Yeah, that's special challenge. And then limited meetings because, yeah, they live far away from school with difficult transport, and then the government only allowed to have 1/3 of the capacity to meet in the classroom. And unsupportive parents, this is also difficult because for certain parents, the students need to help them to make money, to work in the plantation and to get payment, daily payment from the company, or to get something from the forest. Yeah. Then this is what the teacher, the novice teacher, said to me in my conversation. The most important thing is exposing the learners to English vocabulary. She is an English teacher. And then the vocabulary that they are interested in. So forget about the curriculum, but we talk about the students' need and the students' passion. When the students are interested in talking about the certain thing, about the certain issue about COVID, they try to introduce vocabulary related to healthy, cleanliness, something like that. Following in curriculum for her is impossible and quote unquote useless because of the situation. They cannot compete. Yeah, they cannot compete with the students in town. Yeah. The next one, gives them easy homework, simple homework, and little amount of homework. That's the situation. What she hoped just the pandemic will disappear soon. So this is one, yeah. focus on the students' passion and forget about the curriculum by novice teacher. Okay, next slide, please. This is a senior teacher. I interviewed her because I know her very well. This is not in my province. This is in Sumatra. She is the former vice principal of the school, private school with national network, modern school. Then in the pandemic, the school used learning management system, LMS, but many teachers use open source. They don't like the management system because they need to learn that to adjust themselves. Google Classroom, WhatsApp, Zoom meeting, and others. This is a problem of adjusting the habit of using open sources into the school's learning management system. For her, again, this is a senior teacher. Using technology is the best alternative in the pandemic. Most students live in town have got accustomed to using technology in learning. About 1% of their students live far away in villages and could not participate in online learning. Then, after the pandemic, she hoped that technology should be integrated to the conventional classroom. So we cannot don't leave the technology after pandemic, integrate the existing technology that has been used in the pandemic situation to the class, conventional class. This is one lesson, again, integrate technology into conventional class. Okay, next slide, please. This is a senior teacher of elementary school, our school, the MUHAMMADIYAH school. What she said is, no matter what, I must teach my students. Whatever the situation, I must touch. For her, teaching is touching. Teaching is touching. So she worked very hard to quote unquote touch the learners individually through WhatsApp up to late night. Up to late night. And I think this is very special, even though the schools introduced several applications, but she's not satisfied with it because she's not good at computer. And what she needs to make sure is that she can touch the learners and she can control, quote unquote, control the development of the learners. She has learned how to operate the applications, but it seems not very successful. So WhatsApp is the most and almost the only medium of communication. She tried to control. The most important thing is the recitation of Holy Quran and the memorization of Holy Quran. So she controlled every day, every student individually, through video call up to late night. I really respect this kind of teacher, even though she is very, she has a limitation in using technology, but she is a very good power, strong power of touching the learners. Okay, for her, technology is helpful, but if it is difficult, there must be a way of touching the learner. Okay, next slide, please. This is also by an elementary school, the same elementary school in Pontianak. Our school, the school that is owned and managed by Muhammadiyah. This is in the other side of the skills. He graduated from a faculty of engineering and got a professional teacher education program. He is actively involved in educational technology program nationally and also competition. And she is one of the best teacher that we have in managing technology in our schools and in our province. At the moment, schools, according to him, school and parents are forced to use technology to make teaching and learning process happen. However, it's good that people are learning and getting used to utilizing technology for education. So it's a kind of the benefit of the COVID-19 pandemic. Then everyone, every parents, every teachers, and every students must get used to using technology for learning and for teaching. He is the instructor of using many applications in our organization and the schools. Now he is the committee of the competition for Milad Muhammadiyah. We in our Muhammadiyah anniversary every year we open competition. Then now most of the competition are online, and he is the person in charge of that. But for him, skills, knowledge of technology are not as important as the character of using technology, mentality of using technology, attitude toward technology. For him, example, integrity, discipline in using technology, and then manner and so forth are more important than skills. And I think this is what we need in Muhammadiyah, that character is more important than the technology, but technology is also very important. This is what we can learn. Technological awareness and character education are a kind of two sides of a coin that cannot be separated from the knowledge and the skills of technology. Okay, next slide, please. This is a response, response from a lecturer of Muhammadiyah University. She is a hardworking person, a bit senior, not really senior. She obtained bachelor and master's degree from our local university in Pontianak, here in our city. During the pandemic, she teaches from home. She even bought equipment for video shooting and online teaching from home. I visited her home because I'm very close to her. I can observe the equipment that they use to teach, to produce material, to produce videos from home. Limited number of applications on the Google Classroom, Zoom Meet, WhatsApp, and YouTube, but very effectively. According to her, yeah, blended learning after the pandemic must be promoted. The teaching and learning process through technology and face-to-face meeting should be blended in such a way in certain program so the learners live in both worlds, in the in the online world and in the real life world. Next. This is, I think, the last person that I interviewed. He got master's and PhD in Australia about technology in learning. His research is mostly in computer-assisted language learning. He's a researcher and lecturer at Tanjung Pura University, not in Muhammadiyah. According to him, yeah, technology is not only because of pandemic, but technology is our life. Using technology appropriately is more important, but skills are also important. Skill and appropriateness. Appropriateness in culture, appropriateness in psychology of social relations. Use only appropriate technology to handle certain job, not only the novelty of the technology, but the appropriateness of the technology. And for him, curriculum reform is really important to prepare mentally, to prepare the students effectively, cognitively, and psychomotorically. And for him, attitude toward technology is very important. So, because technolingo, yeah, technology has certain situation, and we must understand certain technology for certain communication, for certain culture. Skill, curriculum, and mutual adjustment between the elderly and the young, the millennial. They need to adjust each other to build effective communication and effective use of technology. The last slide is about, okay, next last slide. These are the summary of the lesson learned that I have, actually I have emphasized earlier in every slide. Okay, number one is upgrade facilities and educational human resources to enhance the practice, to overcome challenges, and to increase effectiveness. Number two, be wise in implementing a curriculum and reform the curriculum wisely. Integrate technology to conventional classes, blend them. Touch the students wisely, no matter what. Promote technological awareness and character education. And the last one is mind technolingo, skills, curriculum, and mutual adjustment. Okay, really sorry to take this time very long. I plan to do it. Very in a very short time. Okay, again, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Iksanuddin. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just learned from him, yeah, several important points. Yeah, first is upgrading facilities and educational human resources to enhance practices, to overcome challenges, and to increase effectiveness. And then the second one is be wise in implementing a curriculum and reform the curriculum wisely. Yeah. And integrate technology to conventional classes, blend them. Yeah. Touch the students wisely no matter what. Yeah. And promote technological awareness on character education. And this character education, I think it's also very important by Iksanuddin, as many of teachers. Yeah, even in Indonesia, I remember I attended one seminar. They argued that how we can develop character education with this online learning. Actually, it is very possible. and interactions, as Mr. Edison presented before, also is very possible. And mine, technology skills, curriculum, and mutual adjustment. Thank you very much, Pak Iksanuddin. Next is we are going to welcome our last speaker, Miss Jenny V.R. Antonio. Let me just read her background first. Yeah. Educational background, he attended Arayat Central Elementary School, Arayat Institute, Holy Cross College, Bachelor in Elementary Education, and then Governor Andres Pascual College, a Master of Arts in Education, Administration, and Supervision. Her working experience as a teacher, classroom teacher, and Adelaide Grace Montessori School, classroom teacher at Richfield Learning Center, Teacher 1, Teacher 3, and Master Teacher 1 at Navotas Elementary School. Miss Jenny, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm glad to be part of today's webinar, and it's an honor to be one of the speakers. Thank you, Dr. Lily Norlaili, for this opportunity. Thank you also to my co-speakers for today. I really learned a lot from you. And to SDO Navotas, thank you for allowing me to be part of this webinar. So I will introduce myself. I'm Jenny V. Antonio from Navotas Elementary School in Navotas, Philippines. Aside from being a classroom teacher, I'm also a journalism coordinator and trainer, which I believe pushed me to be more innovative and confident to try new things that will make difference to my students and for myself as well. Okay, I titled my presentation, Bridging the Distance Online. As we all know, online is one of the best ways to deliver lessons in distance learning. However, we can't hide the fact that there are many challenges in this learning modality, just what our speakers mentioned in their presentation. With my discussion, I will be sharing to you the approaches I use in my class, my own experience on how I deliver my lessons online. I will also be sharing some tips for online teaching that will be helpful to all of us. Okay? Okay. So honestly, before every time I hear distance learning, what comes in my mind is ineffective learning. Why? Because there are many problems in distance learning. First, the quality of instruction. How sure we are that the instruction will provide them adequate or will provide our learners adequate, and this will be effective for our students to learn. Next is communication. Can we regularly communicate with our learners online? Can we address their learning needs and difficulties online? But last year, when I started attending trainings or webinars and taking up online courses about distance learning, I realized learning is really possible. Challenges can be surpassed through appropriate approaches and, of course, materials. In fact, I can say that this setup is testing how effective we are as teachers and how good we are in utilizing pedagogical approaches to ensure learning will occur. Okay? So, when we say pedagogy, it is the heart of teaching. It is the rules and principles that guide effective and efficient activities which lead to learning. And we all know learning is dependent on the pedagogical approaches that the teachers use. A variety of pedagogical approaches are common in schools, but some strategies are more effective and appropriate than others. The effectiveness of pedagogy depends on the particular subject matter taught, on the learner's needs, on the adapting to the on-ground conditions in the classroom. Now, in distance learning, we should carefully utilize a range of pedagogical approaches for students to learn. Just our previous speaker mentioned, yes, we have many available technologies, but mastery of the skills is very important. And we have to use also the technology appropriately. And we can do this if we know what are the pedagogical approaches we can use in this setup. Okay, I will be presenting to you some pedagogical approaches wherein I base my lessons on how I prepare my lessons, how I design the learning materials that I am providing my learners. Here in the Philippines, one of the standards and principles in developing the enhanced basic education curriculum, which is stated in Republic Act number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act 2013, is the curriculum shall use approaches that are constructivist, inquiry-based, reflective, collaborative, and integrative. These approaches are commonly known as the 2C, 2I, and 1R approaches. I believe that these approaches are still applicable even in distance learning setup, specifically in online distance learning. I'm sure you are already familiar with these approaches, but allow me to discuss them and give suggested activities. Then later on, I'll share with you how I come up with my online lessons and the materials that I am providing with my learners based from these pedagogical approaches. So the first one is constructivist approach. When we say constructivist approach, learners construct their own understanding, okay, of the world around them based on the experience as they live and grow. They select and transform information from past and current knowledge and experiences into new personal knowledge and understanding. This approach allows learners to be active in the process of constructing meaning and knowledge rather than passively receiving information. This approach has different types such as thinking skills, activity-based, and direct teaching. With this approach, the suggested activities are discussions, experiments, and film showing, which we can also conduct through online. Okay, next one is collaborative approach. This is an umbrella term for a variety of educational approaches involving joint intellectual effort by students or students and teachers together. This approach requires learners to work together. But the question is, can we use this in online distance learning? The answer is yes. We can have online collaborative tasks for our learners. For example, in my class, I am giving collaborative tasks to my learners, and they use the social media platforms like Messenger to talk or brainstorm ideas as pair or as group. But before giving them collaborative tasks using social media, we must prepare them first to become responsible netizens. Okay, next one is integrative approach. Okay, this provides learners with a learning environment that helps them make connection of their learnings across curricula rather than teaching isolated facts. This pedagogy has four objectives: making sense of the learning process, differentiating matters by relevance, applying learners to practical situations. For example, bringing together traditionally separate subjects so that students can have more authentic understanding. Like, for example, integrating science with reading comprehension and writing lessons. According to the studies, this has been shown to improve students' understanding in both science and English language arts. In online teaching, this is advisable, especially if the students have limited access to internet and, of course, to save time. Okay, the next one is inquiry-based approach. This requires more than simply answering questions or getting a right answer. It exposes investigation, exploration, search, quest, research, it and study. When we say inquiry-based learning, it is a form of active learning that starts by posing questions or problems rather than simply presenting or establish facts or portraying a smooth path to knowledge. Actually, this is basically closely related to the development and practice of thinking skills. Okay, then lastly is reflective approach. Here, teachers analyze their own practice and underlying basis to consider alternative means for achieving their ends. Some points of consideration in the reflection process might be what is currently being done and how well students are learning. With this approach, we can improve our practice and strategies, which is very important in online distance learning or in our new setting. Okay, so when we say online distance learning, okay, it can be synchronous and asynchronous. As we all know, synchronous means the learners and the teacher interact in real time, like for example, through video conferences, while asynchronous, teachers prepare learning materials in advance for students to access online anytime. Okay, so I'll be showing you how our school or how I am delivering my lesson in a synchronous setup. Okay, in our school, we conduct synchronous learning through live chat lessons via Messenger. Okay, then we also have the video conference using the Google Meet or the Messenger rooms. But sometimes we are also using the Zoom application. In conducting synchronous session, it is very important that you know what is accessible to all of your students. Like, for example, in our school, most of our learners have limited access to internet. Some don't even have access. So we are really exploring ways on how learning will continue that no pupil or student will be left behind. I'll be sharing you an example of my recorded synchronous session with my grade 1 pupils. For elementary pupils, it is a must to prepare lessons that will require their active participation. Like here in this session, I just don't let my pupils sitting down, staring at the screen while listening to me. I give or provide them activities that they will get up and move. Okay? So this strategy, I can able to practice their responsive listening skills. Aside from that, I also let them construct their own ideas from our lesson through pictures, watching videos, listening to stories. I let them connect their prior knowledge to new knowledge and understanding. Okay, just like in this example, our session here is about identifying hobbies, interests, and talents. Through showing pictures and telling stories that are familiar to them, they're able to realize that they too have hobbies, interests, and talents. Then they started to share them to their classmates. So our discussion, with this, our discussion becomes interactive. Okay, next example. Okay, here, their lesson is math. I let them explore several activities, connecting their previous lessons to new one. Through a series of activities, they discover new learning without noticing that the activities are directing them to new knowledge. And through this approach, the learners will not feel the boredom of listening to your lectures or to my lectures and burden for attending synchronous sessions. In fact, in this class, I am simply starting my lesson by just asking, how are you? How's your day? What did you do yesterday? So I let them tell stories, their own stories. And through their stories and answers from my questions, I can able to direct them to my prepared series of interactive activities. And they themselves discover new learning from those activities. Okay. So next, in synchronous, um, as as you all know, some pupils have limited access to internet. We can also have curriculum integration. Aside from saving time, this approach has been shown by several studies to support students' engagement and learning. Okay, so that's the synchronous. Let's go to asynchronous. There are different LMS we can use for asynchronous. But in our school, we consider our learners' readiness and profile. So we came up to use only the Facebook private group, the Google Classroom, and the use of QR codes for our asynchronous session. Okay? So when we have our asynchronous activities, we have to consider the three principles of online pedagogy. The first is engagement. Let the students do the work. The more time students spend engaged with the content, the more they will learn. In order to realize the involvement of students, we have to create tasks that requires self-assessment of tasks. And also, we have to involve them in evaluation. Okay? The next principle is interaction. Okay? Interactivity is the heart and soul of effective asynchronous learning. Provide tasks that will require the students interact with each other, like exchanging ideas, or let them interact with several learning materials. And lastly, presence. Strive for presence, social, cognitive, and teaching presence. We must establish a community of learning and inquiry. We have to facilitate discussions and direct instructions. Okay? So in our asynchronous, as I've said earlier, we are using private Facebook group. For my class, I created a group as our LMS. Since based from my survey conducted from them, this is the most accessible to them. FB group can be used as social learning, wherein we can create units so our pupils will be properly guided with their tasks and lessons. So this is an example of a Facebook group. Actually, this is for my class. I post interactive activities where they are free to share their ideas and outputs. They can also interact from several learning materials I am posting. I provide them enough time to work on the different tasks and browse the materials. Since in our school, we are implementing the blended learning, so they also have modules to answers. I am also posting here a guide in answering their modules in all subject areas, as you can see in the screen. Then, I am also uploading here the recorded synchronous session so that those who did not able to attend can still watch our session and still be updated with our activities. And next, I also create video lessons as their enhancement or enrichment activity. Links for the videos are posted here in our Facebook group. So this is an example of a video lesson I created for them. The lesson here is counting from 1 to 100.
Nais kong bilangin at kilalanin 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's it. Then the most common LMS, as we all know, is Google Classroom. Actually, I am using the Google Classroom to my journalism class, but this is also supported by some instruction in Messenger. For my journalism class, I usually use inquiry-based and collaborative approach. I provide tasks that require them to explore, investigate, and make research, as well as to work together as pair or as group. Okay, next, like I've said earlier, we are also providing our pupils learning modules. Since our modality is blended learning, we are providing QR codes for our struggling learners, like our frustrated and non-readers. We paste these QR codes to their printed modules. So these are examples. These QR codes will link the learners to video lessons that will guide them in answering their modules. Okay, so that is an example of video lesson. Then also, QR codes are also provided for our frustrated and non-readers to guide them in answering their modules. Since they are dependent learners.
Ay si Jaja at ang kanyang talento. Pasukan na naman.
Okay, next. To reflect if our approaches and materials are effective, we are asking the parents and students to answer reflection sheet online and offline. Through their reflections, we can able to improve our strategies and even our learning materials. Another is we have individual learning monitoring plan for our struggling learners. This is to monitor their progress and also for us teachers if the materials we are providing them can able to address their learning needs or difficulties. Okay, here are some tips for online distance learning. First, plan. And part of planning is to know our learners well. We have to get their personal data, their reading level, available gadgets, and if they have access to internet, okay, then the availability of parents or guardians. Okay, just like in my class, okay, here are my surveys from them. I gathered this information to know their available gadgets so I can provide them tasks that are only accessible to them. Then next is their access to internet so that I'll know how much time they can spend online and I can give other tasks to those who don't have access. For now, for those who don't have access, we have also we have the learning modules, and I am also conducting text and call conference to them so that they will be guided in answering their modules even they don't have access to internet. Okay, next, I also gather information about their reading level. Through this, I can adjust my activities based on their level. Next is I'll be needing also their parents' availability. Why? Because it's in this modality, it's very important to communicate regularly with the parents, and we can do this by knowing what day they are available and what time. Okay, as we all know, there are parents who are working, and we have to be flexible and we have to adjust on their available day and time. Next, involve the parents. Support will always be available as long as we ask for it. Okay, we have children also in assessing their children's learning. And through this, we can able to build strong relationship to the parents. Next is motivation. For me, the best way to motivate them is to show empathy. Let them feel you understand them, listen to their stories, show them that you are ready to help them. Then we must accept that everyone learns differently. Remember that our goal is to find ways to help our students get the most out of our class. Okay? Next is innovate and stimulate discussions. Initiate and encourage discussions that can go a long way in terms of how our students feel in class. Let's encourage participation, then assigning activities, and in monitoring their progress, let's involve them. These lead our students to get more out of our class, more than just a grade. And lastly, ask for help and feedback. Okay? Even our students can provide us valuable feedback, okay, that can help our class to move forward. Then ask also help from our colleagues and to our school heads. Okay? So I will be ending my discussion with this quote that online distance learning can be difficult, but it's definitely achievable. There is no impossible goals for a dedicated and innovative teachers. Do not be afraid in trying new things in online teaching. In this new setup, aside from making learning possible for our learners, let's use the situation to make difference within ourselves. We must always remember that every accomplishment starts through trying. That's all. Thank you for listening. Again, good morning.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jenny, for the enlightening presentation. I would like to quote what we have just said in the final statement, that online distance learning can be difficult, but it is definitely achievable. I think we have just learned a lot from Ms. Jenny, yeah, about some of the approaches. Among others are reflective and interactive approaches. And Ms. Jenny also elaborated in details the strategies how to handle students who don't have access to internet, yeah, with some techniques, yeah, and approaches, of course. And what is also I would like to underline is the communication with parents is very prominent. I think it's very important that we teachers involve, engage, yeah, with the parents. So there are some tips that she just mentioned. First is the plan. We have to have a good plan. Second is we have to involve parents. This is important, involving parents. Third is motivation. Fourth is innovate and stimulate discussion. And the last one is ask for help and feedback. Miss Jenny, thank you very much. Really much,
Thank you.
really much appreciated. Thank you. It was so enlightening. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just heard a presentation from all of four honorable speakers, yeah, with their knowledge and experiences with us. I believe that we have some of the participants already posted some questions for you. I would like to choose some of them and read it for you, for the speakers. I would like you to get ready. Let me read it first. First is from Ibu Suparmi. Ibu Suparmi is from SMK MUHAMMADIYAH 1 Pubian, Lampung Tengah. I just read it. I live in rural area, so I must visit students' home twice a week to do teaching and learning process. But I find that the students don't have motivation to learn. So how to make them happy and motivated to learn during this pandemic? Yeah, I think this is for everyone. Yeah? For all, I would like you to answer one by one. First is from Pak Maskuri, Mr. Maskuri.
Thank you, Pak Alfa.
Okay, yeah,
I think it is not easy question to answer. So, because in the situation of pandemic is every area have different problem. So how to motivate students in order to have high motivation in doing online learning. Yeah, as I mentioned in my presentation, that we have to, cooperation between school or MBS or madrasah with teachers and also with parents, because three partner of this component is very important role in making the learning process, especially in the condition of pandemic. So good relationship between three party, teacher or Ustadz and santri or student and parents is very important. And
now as the facilitators of learning. So they have to understand what keeps the students motivated so that they can properly reinforce such behaviors that drive meaningful learning. So my response to that is, it is not only the individual responsibility of students to be motivated, it has to be something communicated and managed well in the presence of the parents. So to me, increasing the motivation for learning would also mean increasing parents' motivation to get involved in the learning process, especially given that there is a distance that exists between the school and the home. Thank you.
Can I answer? For me, my answer to that question is, let them feel that you understand their situation. Provide them inspiration by um, relating their learning in a real life scenario. And it's also very important to involve and empower the community and the parents.
Thank you, Miss Jenny. Pak Iksan?
Okay. Ibu Sumartini, am I right? Yeah. I am also Sanak Lampung, Ibu. Yeah, so I know the situation. Yeah. Thank you. I agree with all the previous answers by Dr. Maskuri, by Dr. Edison, yeah, and then by Jenny. That very good relation. Good relation is very important. When we have good relation, we will know what they need, and we will enjoy the relations. Also, the parents, the relation between the students and the parents, and then the teachers and the parents, and the motivation of the parents. Yeah. Also, the last one. I just want to add something that I quote from my respondents. Two respondents. The first one is a novice teacher from the rural area, and then an expert from our university, Tanjung Pura University. That we must know their passion, and we need to mutually adjust. So the teacher need to adjust their way of communication, and then the materials, and then the technique of teaching to the learner's passion. So when these two are adjusted, the motivation will improve, of course, of course, it can be difficult or maybe difficult, yeah. But I agree with Jenny that it must be attainable, it must be possible. So understanding their mood and their passion. So we need to learn the students' psychology and the situation. It is really theoretical, but I think the teachers in the real setting of teaching will know how to adjust and will know how to understand the passion of the students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Iksanuddin, for your answer. Yes, please, Bu Lily.
Yes, I want to answer the question. At the beginning, I'm just give information or my PowerPoint that is indicator for motivation, for learning motivation. First is they have a need to success. It's the important thing, because if the student they don't have a need to success, they don't have motivation. And number second is ada dorongan dan kebutuhan dalam belajar. And then it means is they are very need to learning, and then they have motivation not only for themselves but from the society, from the parents. Number three is ada harapan dan cita-cita untuk masa depan, ya. And then it mean they have what the next of they are after they are study, for the next generation, for the next they are life, and then they must achieve that what they are they need. Ada apresiasi dalam belajar. Nah, is number 4. It mean if the teacher give appreciation to student, not to give a present or give a book or chocolate, something like that, but the appreciation in here just, okay, you are good, more learning tomorrow, more good learning tomorrow, or something like that. Jadi belajar lagi, kasih motivasi dari gurunya. Number 5, if ada kegiatan menarik dalam pembelajaran. That is, if you are giving, teaching, learning is interesting, they are make a motivation to continue, to always watching you are teaching and learning. And number 6, ada lingkungan belajar yang kondusif. It means if the parents or society, brother and then sister, not learning is more energizer, and then they are just only lazy, something like that. That is, jadi harus ada panutan lingkungannya seperti itu. Oke, dibuka lagi nanti PowerPoint saya. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you very much, Bu Lily, for your questions. Actually, before I just spotted the questions for Mr. Edison, but it disappeared. I think I remember the questions is related to the website that you're referring when you are doing an interactive engagement, Mr. Edison. The question was that is the website is available for public and then it can be used with unlimited basis, Mr. Edison.
The for interactive teaching that I have shared earlier, Jamboard is integrated within. So if you have a Gmail account or a Google account, you can readily create your own Jamboard. So it is free. Meantime, Slido can be used by anyone. It's a free application also. However, if you use the free account, you can only have 3 interactive activities, nothing more than that. And it can accommodate 500 or even 1,000 students at one meeting if you want to use it integrated in your activities or lessons. But if you want to have more than 3 interactive activities, you just have to pay for a little upgrade. But if you ask me, the free version is more than adequate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edison, for your answer. I would like to again read some of the questions here from Mr. Angkun Shidik. Yeah, he's from SD Muhammadiyah ASEAN. The question is, how make collaboration learning between student, parent, teacher effectively during distance learning process? Yeah, I think this relates also to everyone's previous presentation. I would like to start, I think, with Miss Jenny first.
Okay, make sure we communicate to them regularly. Then we give them a guide on how to assist their children well. Then, for example, in our school, we are giving them booklets, so they will be properly guided on how to support their children at home.
Thank you very much. So, booklet for the parents, yeah, to be guided. Thank you, Miss Jenny.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to go to Pak Iksanuddin with the same questions, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Before answering, I just want to introduce my backdrop. Yeah, it's Langkit from Mindanao. Yeah, from the Maranao people. I think project activities will be very interesting for teachers, for parents and students. So, in Indonesia, we have so to create the theme, the theme that can involve parents and students. And then I agree with Miss Jenny that guidebook or a kind of procedure that can involve and also that can involve and to assess the involvement of parents and students not only in the product but also in the process of the project accomplishment. I think it will be very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Iksan. Mr. Edison, please, with the same questions.
Can you just clarify the question further? Because I want to be certain about my answer.
Okay, the precise question is how make collaboration learning between student, parent, teacher effectively during distance learning process?
The first thing that you would have to understand about setting up collaborative mechanisms between and among teachers, parents, and students, their capability for connecting. But by the term connecting, we are not talking about internet connectivity alone. I am always in appreciation of teachers who actually extend their capacity to understand how parents parents and students operate in this unusually difficult environment, just like what one of our colleagues earlier mentioned. But unless those unless their capacity for connectivity or connecting rather is established, you cannot do so much. Whether you write or communicate with them through letters or through handbooks or manuals or whatever, or whether you have an online parenting platform, it really doesn't matter. But what matters more is that the people involved in the collaboration are able to empathize with one another properly. And by empathy, we mean that no teacher will actually give too much content that students will need to work out on their own without much supervision. Empathy also drives the decisions of parents in becoming open to ask questions freely to teachers, because admittedly, they are the ones more in control of the situation at home. So again, this all boils down to ensuring that before you engage in any amount of online and distance learning, there should be adequate parent training. That is why I always remind schools, do not engage in online distance learning if you have not provided adequate parent training, because that should guarantee how you will establish good and enabling collaborative mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edison. I think I would like to underline your important point that it is not only the schools, asking for collaboration from teachers, from parents, I mean, yeah, but uh, schools also need to provide parent training. Yeah, to make sure that parents have an adequate information, skills, and knowledge, how to engage during this online distance learning. Thank you very much, Mr. Edison, for your answer. I think I would like to go to Mr. Maskuri to answer this. Pak Maskuri? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I would like to read the next questions. The next questions is, how can you manage the students to be, to make them enjoyable and also focus on the online learning. Yeah, so enjoyable and focus for students. I would like to start with Miss Jenny first.
Of course, just what Sir Edison, interaction. Okay, you have to provide them interactive activities. Then don't let them feel burdened with your activities also. Then in synchronous session, you just listen to their stories. You let them share their own ideas and learnings. And through that, you can able to engage them well in an online distance learning.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jenny. This is a question from Ois Fauzia from Bogor in Indonesia. Mr. Edison, please help answer this also.
Okay. I think what's most crucial and what I have repeatedly mentioned all this time is that any amount of quality engagement, whether that is in the form of an interaction, a lecture, or a demonstration, will all need to be grounded in what is so real and what is easily available within the reach of the students. I think it will matter that all of us are very much aware that our students are not operating within a normal classroom condition. So whatever can be maximized as forms of support to enrich engagement at home will matter too. By the way, the other side of the parent training is that there must be an explicit student training in terms of engaging in online and distance learning. The sad part when we transition to online distance learning is that everyone assumed that students know better than their parents and their teachers. But our students, yes, they know how to use their devices, how to interact with you online, but they may not have the same set of skills in terms of executive control, in terms of attention span, in terms of competency in addressing their difficulties, which adults have. And so it is imperative that when you train parents to engage in students in online learning, you must also provide for explicit teaching of skills among students in managing themselves within interactive and online platforms.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edison, for your answer. I'd like now to continue reading some of the questions.
Excuse me?
Yes,
Dr. Alpha, maybe I want to answer like this.
Yes.
If you want to make student still concentration with the material, the important thing is the first they are still online. I mean, one of the psychologists said that the concentration, one person is the same their age. For example, the student, the age is only 7. The concentration only 7 minutes. And then you just give 7 minutes full of material. And after that, you must give them a game or just everything to make their energizer or something like that. And after 1 or 2 minutes, you can continue again, and then 7 minutes again concentration, something like that. And then if they are senior high school, 15 years old, they are concentration 15 minutes, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Willy, for your additional information on this. Thank you. Pak Maskuri, please.
Pak Alfa.
Yeah, Pak Iksan, please.
Yeah. Number one, yeah, just to add some a little touch. Number one, people are the students usually like to answer challenge and then give them challenge and then choices, yeah, and give the challenge that are in the level or in the area of their passion. Okay, so challenge, choices, and passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Iksanuddin, for your answers. I would like to go to Pak Maskuri, please.
Thank you, Pak Alfa. I think as I said before, that the teacher or Ustadz should understand the characteristic of students or santri. As already said by Dr. Lily, that for example, for santri, junior high school age, it's different from the senior high school age. So Ustad or teacher should understand how to make the, subject material is variative, and also the media. So in learning process is very interesting, not boring. And also the school or MBE should make a schedule tightly. For example, in Muhammadiyah boarding school, for checking the memorizing Al-Quran for students, the Ustad or teacher should monitor every morning whether they concentrate on the test that already given by teacher. And also we have monitoring schedule to the parents, to the students, and also we should understand what is the problem that faced by santri or student every time. So if there is problem, we have to get soon to look for the solutions.
Thank you, Pak Maskuri. I think this is very unique because Pak Maskuri is the head of the institution of the Muhammadiyah boarding school, yeah, where students should actually stay at the schools, 24 hours there. But now, because of the pandemic, they are forced to stay at home. Yeah, this is really a challenge, yeah, for boarding school like that. Yeah, and this is again, we have questions specifically addressed for Pak Maskuri. This is from Ibu Nunung Nurlaili Jamil. She is from SMK Muhammadiyah Technology, yeah. And then she's asking what is the procedure of establishing Muhammadiyah boarding school. So she would like to ask how to transform a regular vocational school into boarding school. Pak Maskuri, please.
Thank you, Balfa. I think it's very good questions. How to build or to open the Muhammadiyah boarding schools. As our regulation now, Undang-Undang Pesantren number 18, 2019, as I just explained in my presentation, that the requirement of opening or building the Muhammadiyah boarding school is we have to 5 rukun, 5 requirement. One is we have to kiai, the Islamic teacher as a leader, and second we have to we have to have santri or student, minimum 15 students. And third, there should be any teaching process on Islamic teaching through Dirasa Islamiyah or Kitab Kuning or yellow books. And the fourth is there should be any mosque to have activity on religious teaching and also for praying and Islamic activity in the Muhammadiyah boarding school. And the last one, there should be any dormitory to stay the santri all day and night there. And now the registration is through the online. So the school should be provide proposal to the Ministry of Religious Affairs in the kabupaten or kota, and there should be verified. Then after everything is okay, the Ministry of Religious Affairs in the region will make recommendation that this requirement is okay. Then we can register to the Central Ministry of Religious Affairs in Jakarta through online. That's the explanation from me, Pak Alfa.
Thank you very much, Pak Maskuri, for your answers. And now we have also specific questions about Muhammadiyah, but I would like to address this to Pak Iksanuddin. Pak Iksanuddin, this is a question from Pak Mustajib, is one of the two biggest religious organizations in our beloved country, Indonesia. What has Muhammadiyah has done so far to help our country to get rid of this COVID-19 pandemic? Pak Iksan.
Okay. I think one of the weaknesses of Muhammadiyah is we don't socialize what we have donated to the country. Yeah, Muhammadiyah has already donated, I think, trillions of rupiah for this pandemic in terms of tuition fee reductions and then hospital services. I think, and then the cadre of Muhammadiyah already worked very hard through Muhammadiyah Disaster Management Center, MDMC. And then we have also MCCC, Muhammadiyah Command Center, a COVID Command Center, that works especially for to overcome the effect or the impact, negative impact of COVID-19. So if we count into rupiah, I think it's very, very big. I think the biggest contribution by an organization in perhaps in the world. And our facility also are open to help people to for recovery. We also do some mini education efforts through the community, door to door, and then through social media and through masjids, mosques, and so forth. So I'm very happy that this question is raised, so I can inform that Muhammadiyah organization has contributed a very big amount of money for the country, very big amount of manpower, a very big amount of social capacity that we have collected and then contributed to the country. Thank you very much, Pak Alfa and Pak Mustajab.
Thank you, Pak Iksanuddin. I think, Bu Lily, I think the questions are
Done?
tough, yeah? Are you done? You know, there are a few more, but they resemble the previous questions. So I think it's about how to make an online teaching learning effective, how to kill the boredom, etc. I think we have already listened from our honorable speakers relating to this matter. Bu Lili, I think thank you very much for this opportunity again, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to appreciate again to our honorable speakers for the enlightening presentations, and also to all participants for the questions and engagement and enthusiasm, to keep staying until the end of this webinar. Again, thank you very much for the honorable speakers. We have
Closing ceremony.
Ibu Lili, Pak Maskuri, Mr. Edison, Pak Iksanuddin, and Miss Jenny for the time to be with here and to share your invaluable insights, experience, knowledge, and skills relating to this very important day-to-day challenge for us teachers, both in the Philippines and also in Indonesia. Thanks again. Thank you. I would like now to invite Ibu Lili Nurlaili, Education and Culture Attaché of the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Manila, the Philippines, to give us closing remarks. Please, Ibu Lili.
Thank you, Pak Alfa. Pak Alfa is not only the Secretaries, Dikdasmen Muhammadiyah, but he is also the Director of Siamolek. Thanks a lot. Because of that, he is English is very good, very fluently. Okay, this is the last. I just speak to close the webinar international. Thank you to all of panelists and the participants. My Honorable Dr. Haji Maskuri, MED, from Department of Muhammadiyah Boarding School, Head of an Institution. Edison Fermin, PhD, Vice President for Academic Affairs, National Teacher College. And my Honorable Dr. Haji Ihsanuddin, Vice Chairman, Muhammadiyah Provinsi Kalimantan Barat. Mam Jenis V. Antonio, Master Teacher, Novotas Elementary School, Filipinas. And all of the participants at the beginning is more than 150. Thank you to all speakers. This you are give experience that is very useful, excellent, and inspiring for all of the teacher and lecture from Indonesia and from Philippines. Dengan mengucapkan Alhamdulillah, saya tutup webinar internasional hari ini. Terima kasih, sertifikat sudah dibagikan, dan kemudian materi juga sudah dibagikan. Terima kasih, sampai bertemu. Next week we have another webinar, collaboration between Attaché Education and Culture Indonesian Embassy in Manila with the Dikdasmen Muhammadiyah next Wednesday.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this opportunity. Very nice to see you all the panelists. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Pak Alfa. Makasih banyak.
Thank you. Bye. See you.
Thank you. Selamat. Selamat.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Jenny.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Nggak ada foto bersama, admin? Foto bersama nggak perlu?
Sudah saya foto, cuma kalau mau berfoto bersama boleh dinyalakan videonya, kita akan mulai
boleh
foto.
dinyalakan semuanya.
Okay, please everyone turn on your video because we are going to take a photo.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Absensinya bagaimana, Bu?
Sudah ada di chat box, Ibu, tinggal diklik.
Ya, absen dan sertifikat ada di chat box serta materi.
Ya. Oke, please
kita akan
turn on your video.
Enggak ketemu.
Makasih, Bu.
Scroll ke atas.
Enggak, Bu?
Scroll ke atas, Bu. Scroll ke atas. Sudah dikasih. Tuh, dikasih lagi. Sertifikat link from Google ada tuh.
Sertifikat sudah. Sertifikat udah, tapi kehadirannya nggak ketemu, nggak bisa naik ke atas lagi.
Itu sekaligus di situ, Bu. Sertifikat dan kehadiran.
Tidak,
Sekaligus.
sertifikat udah saya isi tadi.
Sudah sertifikat dan kehadiran sekalian di situ, Ibu.
Oh, berarti kehadirannya sekalian di sertifikat tadi?
Iya.
Yeah, okay. Please take a...
Sertifikatnya udah saya isi.
Oke, bisa nanti dulu nggak, Bu? Terima kasih, Bu. Oke, kita mulai foto. 1, 2, 3. Oke, untuk page pertama sudah. Kita akan lanjut ke page kedua. Sebentar. Oke, 1, 2, 3. Oke, sudah. Terima kasih.
Oke, thank you.
Ya. Baik, Ibu. Jadi di dalam linknya itu sertifikat dan daftar hadir sekaligus, Ibu, ya. Oke, makasih Pak Alfa. Sampai minggu depan. Terima kasih bantuannya.
Sama Ibu.
Terima kasih Pak Ihsan. Terima kasih Pak Maskuri.
Terima kasih Pak Nida dan
thank you. Mr. Edison F. Permin from NTC. Thanks a
Bu,
lot.
untuk daftar seminar selanjutnya. Halo? Untuk daftar.
Yeah. The next webinar later we will
on email ya.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Ya, Assalamualaikum.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nasr minallah wa fatun qorib wa basyiril mu'minin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.